Wow, the box is a lot bigger than it looked in the ad. Never mind, let's go find those delightful little sea monkeys. Are you a sea monkey? Ah, there's been a mix-up!
Hey guys, I'm back with another movie that has been an influence on me. This was, I would say, my gateway movie into the horror genre, at least as far as movies were concerned, and that is Creepshow. So I will get started just by showing you some of the Creepshow things I have. We have, obviously, the masks here. So this is the Father's Day mask. It's the Creepshow zombie. Father's Day, I really like this zombie. And this is a nice mask because this actually comes down, I don't know what they call this, like a collar or what, but this comes down pretty well. So when you put a shirt over it, you can really look like a zombie. And there's even hair here. And that's one of my favorite masks of all. And that's an official Creepshow mask. I do wear my masks. I know some of the people who are big collectors, they'll probably cringe that I actually wear them and I take the tags off, but I mean, I use them, I enjoy them, that's part of enjoying them for me. So, this is Fluffy the Crate Monster, and I actually have another version of Fluffy. It's not officially Fluffy, but this is, I believe, the official Fluffy one. I had my concerns that his mouth might be a little too red, so I did get two of them, but yeah, this Fluffy worked out, and we also did I'll get into what we did later, and I'll put that aside, he's noisy. So, and then this, I don't know if he has a specific name. I'll just call him like the Tide Zombie or the Tidal Zombie. And you could see he's pretty cool because he actually has seaweed in his hair. And there was a male and a female version of this actually. And something, if you've seen the Creepshow movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. For our purposes, we just got the one, but he's pretty cool as well. So that's, I believe, my masks for Creepshow, but I have a lot of other stuff. The Creepshow comic book, if you've ever seen Creepshow, it is based on a comic book, or at least in the movie universe, it's based on a comic book. So this is the actual comic book that they used, or it may have been written after the fact, not 100% sure on that, but Stephen King wrote all the stories. He wrote the screenplay. I don't know what his level of involvement was in the adaptation to the comic format, but it's a really cool comic book. And if you like the movie, you definitely want to get a hold of one of these. So this is a reprint. I don't know that there was an original comic book print type one. This is a reprint in a harder cover. But now the movies themselves, I have. This is an old DVD. This is one of the DVDs I've had the longest, and I will never get rid of my old Creepshow DVD. So that's it right there. And I have many other versions of this, though, but this one's my favorite. This is an import DVD, but if you look, you'll see it says Bob, Stay Scared, George Romero, and it also says Tom Savini right above that as well. So this was hand-signed by George Romero. I took it into George Romero and Tom Savini were at a tattoo parlor doing autographs for whatever reason, and Tom Savini was actually getting a tattoo, not while he signed this, but he ended up getting one. But it was once in a lifetime chance for me to meet George Romero. I've met Tom Savini several times, sometimes by accident, which is quite funny. I can get into more of that later, but yeah, this one is never going to leave my collection. This is very special to me. Now, I would love to fill in this top spot with a Stephen King autograph, because you think Creepshow, you think George Romero, Tom Savini did the effects, and then I still need that Stephen King autograph, so if I ever run into him, hopefully I'll have that on hand. This is the new Scream Factory release of Creepshow on Blu-ray, so this was like the Blu-ray release. So that was an upgrade from the other two DVDs, just visually. And then there's Creepshow 2 and Creepshow Season 1. I haven't picked up Season 2 just yet. I didn't care for Season 2 quite as much as I really liked season 1. I thought season 1 was a runaway success. 2, not so much. I mean, it had its moments. They all do. So, Creepshow. Oh, and I'll put in an insert here. I do have a Creepshow poster. I have 2 of them. I have the original Ticket Taker one. That one, I don't keep that displayed. It's in really bad condition. It's original. And then I also have the original one that resembles this artwork here, and that too has been signed by Tom Savini. So I got that one framed as well, and that's hanging up. So I'll put an insert shot here. So that's the items I have now. Why Creepshow? My first impression of Creepshow, I was in high school. I was probably a freshman, and I was walking past the AV room, and they happened to have their door open, and I could hear like a scream or something. So I poked my head in, and they're watching a 1983 VHS copy of Creepshow, and I happened to just poke my head in at the moment that Fluffy, the crate monster, was making an appearance. And if you've seen the movie, it's a pretty dramatic appearance. And I was like, whoa. So I just froze in my tracks, and I watched for a little bit. Eventually I had to go to class, but just in those few moments, a minute or two that I watched, I really could pick up on how much fun the movie was having with itself, which was, in horror, that was a little rarer. I think we're used to self-aware horror now, with Scream and some other examples, but way back in, the early 80s, the idea that you could make a fun and funny horror movie that was obviously made by fans of the genre, in this case written by Stephen King, and George Romero did the film, and special effects by Tom Savini, that it just combined really well, and the vibe that it was giving off was just so much fun. They had the comic book color scheme, like the splashes of different color that happen at various scenes. And I really connected with that for some reason, just like instantly. I wanted to see more. So I eventually did get, I rented the VHS back then. You could just rent them at your grocery store, and I watched that, and I just loved it. And there's so many cool segments in it. And if you've been a fan of our work or watched some of our work, you'll probably have noticed or picked up on some things where we're doing an homage or indirectly referencing, but other times just an outright almost rip-off of what they've done in those segments. So I'll go through each of the segments and then talk about them. Father's Day, that one's probably, of the segments, it's probably not my absolute favorite, but I love the zombie in it. It's great, and he's so, if you watch it, he's covered with dirt. And that's one of those things they don't always get right with zombies. Is sometimes the zombies look a little too clean or too dry. He was like wet and gross, and there were clods of dirt coming off of him, and he really seemed like something that had just come out of the ground. Now, we did a video called Zombie in Our House featuring this actual mask. We didn't make any Father's Day references. This was just more sort of a wink at the audience if they had been familiar with it. So, I could show some clips here while I'm talking about this. But Zombie in Our House and Father's Day, it's the exact same zombie. So Creepshow, the next segment was The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrell. Now I don't know if they ever made a mask of that, but that was where Stephen King actually plays a role as an actor. And a lot of people really tore his performance apart at the time. It's very cartoonish and over the top. But really, that's exactly how George Romero directed it to be played. It was meant to be almost like a human cartoon type performance. So, like when he's shocked, he goes like, like that. And there's just, there's a lot of like silly scenes. And I'm sure I think Stephen King was actually a little embarrassed by it in some of the interviews I read after the fact. But it's actually a really iconic and funny performance. So I would love to, if I find a mask or something like that. Now, we didn't do he has this moss from outer space that's growing on his face, basically, and then it takes over his whole body eventually. We haven't really directly done a video on that. We have done some transformational type videos. We had one called Teen Werewolf, where Jillian's face, all of a sudden it's growing hair, and then it's, it gets a little worse each time, and it's on her arms and stuff like that, and until she's full-on werewolf. That wasn't really meant to reference that, but that's probably the closest I've come to doing an homage to the Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrell. The crate is the Creepshow crate monster, Fluff, as they called it affectionately, Fluffy. And we did a video called, what did we call it? I think we literally called it Creepshow Crate Monster. If we just called it the crate, probably no one would know what we were talking about. So yeah, in our video, a crate just shows up, and we did ours for laughs. I believe we did most of these for laughs. Maybe not the zombie in our house one. And then, oh, Something to Tide You Over, which is with the title zombies. Let me just... And then we did a 2-part series called It Came From the Sea. And then the second one was It Followed Us Home. And basically this guy comes out of the ocean. He uses like a message in a bottle. So we put our own twist on things there. And then finally the other one, They're Creeping Up on You, that's a short segment. And I didn't used to care much for that segment, but the more I've watched it, the more I really like it. It's got one of the great gross out horror scenes of all time in it. But if you don't like cockroaches, maybe don't watch that one. But we did do a video on our channel called Giant Cockroach Invasion, which somewhat references that, but not quite to the extent that Creepshow did. So, anyway, if you haven't, for some reason, seen Creepshow by now, definitely check out the original. It does have like 5 full segments, and there is a wraparound story. I'm featuring Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, he's called Joe Hill now. He was Joe King at the time. But check those out. Even if you don't like, one of them, or you'll find something you really like. I would say, in my opinion, the crate's probably my favorite one. That's where everything just really clicks. But yeah, there's some great revenge tales. These old pulpy horror books had a lot of tales of revenge. So if you like a good justice being served by the undead kind of film, and you like practical effects, this was made in 1982. If you like practical effects, and if you like a little humor with your horror, you should definitely check out Creepshow. And yeah, I'll just keep looking for more Creepshow items. And if you like this kind of video, I may be doing other ones in the future. Don't worry, Jillian and Addie aren't going anywhere. Like I said, we hit a busy spell for them, but we have more vlogs, things like that coming out. I think we may go in more haunted houses, haunted locations, things like that. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Now's the part where I'm supposed to make them talk. Or fight, maybe. Maybe not.